In this video, we're going to transform an empty piece of land into a luxurious, legendary palace, something you've probably never seen before. It won't just be a big fancy house. We're building an entire city inside it. There will be entertainment halls, home theaters, a gaming room, and a library filled with all kinds of books. And of course, we won't forget the relaxation areas, designed to provide ultimate comfort and peace of mind. So, let's see how we can build this house together, step by step, from scratch. The team behind this project isn't just a group of regular builders. They're Keeled, a crew that transforms bricks, wood, and steel into works of art. They combine creative skill with practical experience. The idea of building this palace has been in their minds for a long time, and after gaining enough expertise, they decided to make it a reality and share the entire process with us, just like they always do on their YouTube channel, Keeled Design. As always, here on Al Fursan, we love to show you the most unique and extraordinary things in the world. So, before we start, let's send our prayers upon our Prophet Muhammad, and let's begin. The first step they took was choosing the perfect location for the palace. They selected a truly special spot that combined two main things: nature and tall trees that provide privacy and create a sense of peace and isolation, far from the city noise and crowds. The greenery surrounding the site also makes the view much more beautiful. The most important thing nature offers is mental relaxation. Living among trees and breathing clean air reduces stress and makes the home a place of serenity, not just a place to live. On the practical side, there's also a nearby road for easy access to and from the palace. The area was originally full of trees, which they had to clear to create a large open space for the palace's foundation. After that, they began the land leveling process, removing roots and the top layer of soil to make the ground clean and even. Then they started digging to a specific depth to pour the concrete foundation that would support the entire structure.
While they were digging, they encountered a rocky layer, and to break through it, they used a hydraulic hammer, which really helped them solve the problem. The land area was quite large, so the process took a lot of time and effort. Eventually, the concrete mixer arrived, but before pouring the concrete, they built wooden molds to precisely mark where the concrete foundations, columns, and footings would go. These wooden molds also prevent the wet concrete from spreading or leaking outside its designated area. They help give the concrete its proper shape and size until it dries and hardens. Once everything was ready, the concrete began to be poured into the molds. This formed the base of the structure, which needed to have a specific shape and thickness. They also poured concrete into circular molds in the center of the site, known as isolated footings, which are designed to support the columns and distribute their weight evenly across the ground. After several days, the concrete had dried completely, so they removed the wooden molds. This was the first completed section of the construction site. They then continued leveling and dividing the rest of the land according to the precise layout they had planned. Now, they started installing fixed wooden beams on top of the concrete bases. In other words, they were building the house using a prefabricated wooden system, which has many advantages. One major benefit is the speed of construction. This type of house can be completed within just a few months, unlike concrete structures which take much longer. It also provides excellent thermal and sound insulation and is much lighter on the foundation. Next, they installed gray panels that would later serve as the building's walkable base. With teamwork, they began erecting large green wooden frames treated with a protective coating against moisture and insects. These pieces served as the main columns and supporting frames of the structure. Since the wood was massive and heavy, they used lifting equipment to move it from one place to another. The beams were fixed to the concrete bases using steel connectors embedded in the foundation, and to make them even sturdier, they reinforced them with angled wooden braces. Once all the walls were secured, they moved on to constructing the roof, which was also made of wood in several layers.
They built the roof in 2 layers. First, they installed the wooden beams, leaving spaces between them. Then they placed wide wooden boards, just like the ones used for the flooring, and secured everything together with nails. After finishing the roof, they immediately began working on the second floor, using the same wall structure as the first floor. The different parts of the palace were connected with a corridor made of brick and cement for added strength and durability. This corridor is a key section, as people will walk through it constantly, so it needs to be solid enough to withstand weight and pressure while ensuring stability and safety. If it were made of wood, it could easily be damaged over time by insects or wear from frequent use. On the other side of the palace, they decided to introduce a completely new and unique design, a gable roof, meaning the entire roof would take on a triangular shape. This design offers several advantages. It reduces the amount of building materials needed, provides excellent thermal insulation, allows for better ventilation, and offers exceptional structural strength since the triangle is one of the strongest geometric shapes. Beyond that, it also adds an elegant architectural look to the palace. They began with one side of the palace, where the gable roof would be installed. After securing all the roof foundations with nails, they covered everything with wide wooden panels, also fixed in place with nails. The entire team was working in different sections simultaneously, and they had already completed a large portion of the palace. They then covered the structure with a thick plastic sheet for protection and continued building with full effort. Using stones, they leveled a pathway connecting the palace to the main road. They also installed the palace's glass windows and fixed them securely with nails. Because of the height, the workers had to perform much of the installation from elevated platforms. A large part of the crew worked on tiling the entire exterior roof using facade tiles. These tiles are easy to install and clean, resistant to sun and rain, and they effectively protect the wood from moisture. Inside the palace, they poured a layer of regular concrete made from sand, cement, gravel, and water, spreading it evenly across the floor to level the surface perfectly before beginning the finishing stage.
The concrete layer also covers the wood, providing excellent protection against fire and moisture while giving the floor extra strength. This step is crucial because wood alone cannot support heavy loads. The concrete also serves as the first stage of preparation for installing tiles, marble, or any other type of flooring later on. In addition, once it hardens, the concrete helps secure the wooden structure by binding the entire floor together as one solid mass. At this stage, they began installing the frames that would form the doorway, which were made of glass to allow plenty of natural sunlight to enter the house throughout the day. These glass frames also give the facade a modern and luxurious look, while providing an open view of the natural scenery in front of the palace. Next, they moved inside the house and started working on various interior details, such as creating circular ceiling designs and preparing the fireplace, which was covered with a transparent wax layer. From the outside, the house still had exposed wooden walls, so they decided to cover the entire exterior with bricks. This would not only make the structure stronger and more durable, but also give it a grand and elegant appearance. It's worth noting that bricks are quite expensive there, so only those who are relatively well off can afford to use them. Judging by how impressive this palace is, the owners clearly seem to be doing very well financially. Meanwhile, the workers were also preparing the wooden frames that would be installed inside the palace. After cutting the wood to precise measurements, they sprayed it with a layer of clear protective paint before fitting each frame into place and securing them with nails. Outside, other workers were pouring concrete along the pathway to smooth and level the road leading up to the palace entrance. Now, they've moved on to one of the most important phases, thermal insulation. This stage prevents rain or moisture from seeping into the wooden structure. Keeping the wood dry is essential for its longevity, ensuring it lasts for many years. The insulation also has a great added benefit. It helps maintain a comfortable indoor temperature, keeping the house warmer in winter and cooler in summer. Moreover, it protects the structure from insects, as it contains elements that resist termites and wood-boring pests that could otherwise damage the house. They began spraying the insulating material all over the place, covering every corner carefully. On top of that, they added another insulation layer made of white synthetic wool.
a very soft and easy-to-handle material that provides excellent insulation, especially for soundproofing. In front of the palace, there was a large open area, so the team started excavating until they reached the rocky layer underneath. All the removed soil was then pushed to the sides. Meanwhile, in another section of the palace, they had already poured the concrete, which had fully dried. There, they started assembling the wooden frames that would form the walls of the first floor, as well as the triangular-shaped roof, consistent with the rest of the palace's design. Everything was tightly secured with nails. After setting up the roof structure, they covered it with wide wooden boards, making sure each one was perfectly fastened to the foundation. On the opposite side, another team was working inside the palace, installing electrical wiring and coating the walls with white primer. They also began fitting the windows in that section. After that, they sprayed the ceiling with a base coat of primer, followed by a layer of matte white paint. This coating covered the plaster evenly, unified the surface color, and prevented any spots or uneven absorption marks from showing. Next, they installed copper ornaments and facade panels on the roof of the palace, giving the exterior a truly luxurious and elegant look. In another part of the structure, workers were pouring concrete over the steel reinforcement bars that had been placed earlier. Once the concrete dried, they moved to a different section where they were installing more glass windows. They brought back the concrete mixer to pour a new layer of concrete inside the palace floors. The team worked systematically, pouring the mixture one section at a time and spreading it evenly throughout. Once it was fully leveled, they ensured the entire surface was perfectly smooth and uniform. Inside the palace, multiple teams were working simultaneously, cutting ceramic tiles, crafting decorative white moldings, and pouring additional layers of concrete to strengthen and refine the flooring. Finally, they began installing long wooden planks across the entire floor, carefully aligning and securing each one to ensure a flawless finish.
They started by laying down a base layer of boards and securing them firmly with nails. Then, they installed decorative gypsum cornices, attaching them carefully with adhesive. Afterward, they sprayed a first coat of primer on the walls and ceiling in that area as well. The team then began cutting the cornices precisely to fit the measurements of each section, gluing them together seamlessly. At the same time, they were sanding the wooden surfaces that had previously been poured over with concrete to smooth them out. Meanwhile, the concrete mixer was running again as they poured a new layer of concrete onto the floor of another section of the palace. Inside, workers were carrying boxes filled with engineered wood panels, preparing to install them as part of the flooring system. In a completely different area of the palace, they filled the entire space with gray gravel, then poured another layer of concrete over it. They spread it evenly across the area, ensuring it was perfectly leveled. Once the concrete set slightly, they created a simple pattern across the surface by dividing it into 3 sections and leaving narrow gaps between them. After it dried, they returned to fill those gaps and repeated the same process to maintain a uniform design. Back inside the palace, they were almost done installing the wooden floor panels. Before placing each plank, they spread a layer of bonding material across the base to secure the boards properly, then fixed them in place using nails. At the same time, they worked on the staircase, installing thick wooden panels that would serve as the steps. These were attached using nails and a hammer to ensure solid reinforcement. In another area, they mounted a sturdy metal column securely into its base and hung a large glass panel from it. They also attached a basketball hoop with its net to the same structure, turning that section into a small recreational spot where they could play and have fun freely. Nearby, they worked on the swimming pool area, starting with the edges. They tiled the borders using a combination of white and black tiles, giving it a clean and elegant contrast.
Next to the pool was the basketball court, which they had already set up but still needed a few finishing touches. They had installed the lighting poles, but the court markings were not yet completed. So they measured the distances precisely and drew the boundary lines carefully to finish it off. Inside the house, the workers had just brought in the sink and were preparing to install it in the kitchen.
They began by designing the base and polishing the marble countertop for the sink area. After that, they installed a stainless steel basin, completing the entire setup. Outside, workers were moving large amounts of soil to the basketball court area to fill the empty space created after separating the court from the rest of the property. Once the soil was leveled, they added a layer of gravel to enhance the appearance and better match the overall landscape design. On top of the gravel, they placed several large decorative stones, and around the area, they planted small trees to outline the space and give it more refined, natural look. The concrete mixer started up again as they moved on to pouring the concrete for the main staircase. They worked step by step. After pouring the concrete onto one step, they spread it evenly, leveled it, and then moved down to the next step, repeating the process carefully. Once the new marble countertop was finished and polished, they transported it slowly to its final position and secured it firmly in place. Then they installed the stainless steel sink within it. Meanwhile, other workers were moving some of the remaining foundation materials inside the house to another section. In another area, they painted the staircase with white paint and glued 2 wooden boards together, applying adhesive to bond them to the wall before fastening them tightly with nails. They also fixed wooden trims along the walls on both sides, attaching them securely with nails and continuing to install the trims throughout the entire section. There was a part that needed additional sanding, so they immediately started smoothing it out. Elsewhere, they were working on one of the concrete surfaces, leveling it carefully to ensure it was perfectly even. Both the staircase concrete pour and the front platform had already dried by this point. At the swimming pool area, they were pouring the floor's concrete base, while on another side, workers were moving the house's built-in safe to its designated spot. Inside the palace, several tasks were happening simultaneously. They transported a massive marble slab to be mounted on one of the walls, and after securing it properly, they brought another slab for a different section. Meanwhile, the staircase team continued sanding down the areas that had already been plastered, smoothing every surface that needed finishing touches.
They were installing a metallic chain on the ceiling, which held large wooden sockets designed for the lighting fixtures. Around the palace, workers were mounting lamps and lighting units that would illuminate the entire area. Meanwhile, the concrete mixer began pouring concrete along the road leading to the palace, followed closely by workers who spread it evenly, ensuring the entire surface was leveled properly. Inside the palace, another team was working to hang a large metallic grid. Using a lift, they managed to raise and fix it securely in its position. They also applied adhesive to the ceiling so they could attach a white covering above it. Next to the marble wall, 2 black cabinets were installed as part of the final foundation setup. The entire room had been painted white, but one wall was coated with black paint to create contrast. Workers used laser levels to precisely mark where fixtures and installations would go. Outside, the concrete work on the road continued, and every time a section was completed, they coated it with a different color to distinguish the progress. Inside, they were still gluing decorative pieces onto the ceiling using adhesive, fixing them firmly with nails afterward. Near the trees, more concrete was being poured, as well as in front of the doors and the open areas. The surprise was that both sides of the main road leading to the palace had completely dried, making it ready for use. They even changed its color, giving it a sleek and elegant look. In one section of the palace, workers were laying the flooring using brick molds and cement. At the swimming pool, once the concrete had dried, they applied a blue waterproof coating designed to prevent water leakage and protect the concrete. After the coating was applied, the entire surface was washed with water to ensure the layer had bonded properly and that no chemical residue remained. This process not only sealed the surface, but also acted as an initial layer of waterproof insulation.
Inside the palace, they were painting one of the rooms in a gray color, while in another room, they were positioning the large bookshelf, which consisted of 2 separate sections. That same room also had its ceiling painted black, and a massive marble slab was installed to serve as the tabletop. Another large marble slab of similar size was transported into the house and lifted into its designated position using a crane. As soon as the water system in that area was connected, they moved the marble to the room where it would be installed, took precise measurements, and fitted it carefully. They then brought another slab and mounted it as well. In another room, they began covering the ceiling with wooden panels. Each wooden plank was coated with adhesive and attached side by side to the ceiling, then reinforced for extra stability. The house's furniture and interior pieces started arriving one by one, transported carefully using a simple dolly. A complete gym was being set up inside the palace. All the gym equipment had arrived and was moved into the fitness hall, where each machine was placed in its designated spot. Outside, the previously empty space between the palace and the surrounding forest was transformed into a lush green area encircling the entire property. Inside again, workers were mounting a large marble piece onto one of the tables, while on the other side, they were welding a metal column, joining its parts together. Using a crane, they lifted it to its position and secured it firmly. Another column was installed close to it, and wooden boards were placed across the two columns, topped with a fixed metal surface connected to the house. They also installed lighting fixtures onto the columns, fastening them tightly with screws. Once the columns were painted black, they mounted a metal staircase connecting the second level of the palace to the ground floor. The swimming pool was finally filled with water and declared ready for use. However, several finishing touches were still ongoing across different parts of the palace. Workers applied plaster to some areas of the room's ceiling, sanded them smooth, and painted the walls along the staircase. In another section, they were installing new ceramic tiles, shaping them into a unique design, spraying them, then painting and washing them again at the end to achieve a clean, polished finish.
To ensure everything fit perfectly in its designated space, they used a lift to move the palace tables through the balconies. They also transported several marble slabs and installed them in their places. At that moment, they were moving another marble piece using a ground dolly, carefully positioning it right beside another slab. A special device was then used to bond the two pieces together, turning them into one seamless slab. Nearby, workers were applying plaster to secure it neatly against the marble's edge. The kitchen countertop slab arrived as well. It was transported and installed with extreme caution to avoid any mistakes that could cause serious damage or financial loss. At this point, the entire project was nearing completion, and the long journey was coming to an end. From the palace's exterior to the swimming pool, and even the pathway leading to the entrance, everything had been finished to perfection. The same level of completion was achieved inside, from painting and foundations to plumbing, lighting, electrical systems, chandeliers, heaters, furniture, beds, sofas, carpets, and a fully equipped gym with all types of machines. After months of non-stop work, they finally accomplished their goal, transforming an empty plot of land into a luxurious palace in every sense of the word. Despite the tremendous effort and exhaustion, they were overjoyed with the final outcome and the breathtaking reality before them. They had overcome every challenge and obstacle along the way, ultimately creating what could be described as an entire small city, a grand estate featuring everything imaginable, fully furnished kitchens, bathrooms, bedrooms, and living rooms, along with a vast library filled with countless books, a massive gym, and a stunning swimming pool. And beyond all that stood a spectacular natural view surrounding the palace. Indeed, this was a display of extravagance, perhaps a bit over the top, but the main idea was to witness this unique construction process from start to finish. I hope you enjoyed this special and fascinating journey. That was today's video. Goodbye.